It's Sunday morning, and every decent man and woman is listening to Test Miles with Nick Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Buckle in.
It's Sunday morning and time to talk cars for the next 60 minutes on your weekly automotive radio experience. I'm Nick Miles, and you're listening to America's automotive radio show, Test Miles, locally created and nationally celebrated. This morning, our car freak in the studio is Sean Walker, our producer. Sean, what did we learn last year in our first year of Test Miles on KXL?
That half of our crew shows up some of the time. They're not in today. They're all sick.
All right, let's talk about some of the vehicles that we've been driving this week. I have been fortunate enough to be inside the new Volvo V60 T6 R Design, the Polestar, which is kind of a wagon sports car, a very confusing vehicle, which is a mixture of speed, sport, and family utility. The 2015 Volvo V60 is new to the US market. It's very stylish. It's a luxury wagon with a sort of Swedish automaker's tinge to it. Even though a Chinese company now owns Volvo, they have maintained their Swedish minimalistic look, the clean and safety driving record that they've had ever since the vehicle, ever since the company started. It's very performing. It's very utilitarianism. It's high performing, and it's a great utility vehicle, and it really is a tempting alternative to the German wagons. There is an Audi, Mercedes, and BMW wagon, and then there are the Volvo wagons. Very few other companies have managed to pull the wagon off. It seems to be only in the luxury market. Now, in the complete opposite, the Europeans, they love their wagons. In fact, they have wagons in all different shapes and sizes. The only other non-luxury wagon that really competes with this is the Acura TLX wagon, which is a very small quantity that they brought into the United States, and then the Jetta wagon, which is now being, I think, going to be phased out, and they're going to replace it with a new Golf wagon.
Well, there's also Subaru's wagon, the Outback, and that's a strong competitor. And here in the Northwest, it actually, you see them all over the place.
Right, and so that's the third level is the Subaru wagons. Now, Subaru seems to have mastered it in the non-luxury category. Everybody else seems to be struggling somewhat. The one thing I do like about the Jetta wagon is the fact that it does come in a diesel version, and that diesel Jetta wagon is a well-sought-after vehicle in the Northwest. So let's talk about the good things about the V60 R-Design wagon. First of all, it's energetic, it's enthusiastic in its driving characteristics. They have the Drive-E engines, which are very fuel economy based, well-balanced ride and handling, and I think very comfortable. In fact, the seats that they put in this Polestar edition, absolutely outstanding. One of the most comfortable seats. If I could transfer those seats into some of my other favorite vehicles that have kind of a rough, difficult ride, then I would have the perfect vehicle.
I just want to transfer those seats into my living room. I mean, they are that comfortable. I would like to sit there and just watch TV all night in them.
They're almost like a couch, as it were, but they're not too squishy where they do give you enough support, yet they seem to have some sort of comfort level which has been missed by many other manufacturers. A couple of the things that people have complained about in this V60 R-Design wagon is the all-wheel drive modes are considerably less efficient than their 5T or their T5 Drive E version. That's a very sophisticated ride and handling, whereas the all-wheel drive and the inline-six engine is a little bit tougher. And yes, this does have an inline-six. It has a 6-speed shiftable automatic and all-wheel drive, of course. Now, the good part about this is you can get up to 28 miles a gallon. Now, not necessarily in the Polestar version, in the R-Design, because that's a bit of a heavy foot car, but you can get that if you get the less sporty versions of the V60 wagon. And they have their standard collision avoidance systems, and that includes the City Safe, which prevents you running into the back of the vehicle in front of you, pedestrian avoidance systems, which we were the first people to test on a real-life human being, which avoids running into that human being by putting on the brakes if it senses you're going to hit a human being. And they also have the cyclist avoidance system. And that, one of the things that a lot of people miss is avoiding a cyclist is a really tough thing to do. And the reason why it's a tough thing to do is because bicycles move, they move faster than human beings, they're a different shape than human beings, so the cameras have to be programmed completely different to recognize a bicycle. The other thing that's difficult to avoid a bicycle is the way they move, because bicycles can get closer to you while traveling forward. Now, it's unlikely that you're going to hit a human who's traveling next to you because you're going forward and going to go a lot faster than them. But with a bicycle, because they can have increased speeds, they can come from your side and go in front of the vehicle. And all of that software has been specially trained so you can recognize a bicycle as opposed to a human being and another car. So those three safety systems are huge in this vehicle. The R-Design version will cost you a starting price of $51,025. Pretty hefty. In fact, the one that we're driving has an MSRP of mid-50s for pricing. The score I would give it is 10 out of 10. It is an outstanding vehicle. I can't find anything wrong with this vehicle. And I would say that for my family and having 5 dogs, it might need to be a size bigger. But for somebody who has 5 kids and just transports sporting gear, this is almost the perfect size vehicle. All right, what have you been driving this week, Sean?
Well, keep going on the Volvo. I did drive that for a little bit, and just to say, I'm not a station wagon fan, but this car is definitely making me like wagons a lot more because it was fun to drive.
I don't understand one of the things, and being of European descent, it's easy for me to be in love with wagons because they're so common when you come from across the pond, but I don't understand why people are so anti-wagon in the United States. When you basically get a sedan, you get all the performance as a sedan, but you get the extra space of a wagon.
I think it comes from back in the old days when we had the big old boat station wagons with the wood paneling and the seats that faced the rear view, and you had to do the road trips with the family. And maybe that's just why people are so against them.
So really what happened is the manufacturers that really ruined the wagon are the ones that made the American versions.
Basically.
All right.
Well, I was also driving this 2015 Honda Civic Si, and I fell in love with this car. I could have this as a daily driver. I know it's Honda's performance car, but for me, it's not really a performance car. It has enough get up and go, and it's fun to drive. But it comes with 200 horsepower. Their 2.4 liter VTEC 4-cylinder engine, and it has something that I don't see anymore, a 6-speed manual in a car, which was fun. Talking about the seats, I mean, they're not as comfortable as the SI or the Volvo, but these are the first sports seats that I was comfortable in. They didn't cut me off in the shoulders, and they weren't like too snug. They were just the perfect sports seat. I love the color on the one that I was test driving. It was an orange fire pearl, and I'm a big sucker for orange cars because it only fits on certain cars. Not every car can be an orange color. It competes with the Volkswagen GTI, the Ford Focus SI, and the Subaru WRX, FRS2 with Scion. And I think it's a strong competitor with them because you get around 25 miles to the gallon combined. Starting price is only $22,990. Like I said, this is a perfect car for around the city and just everything because you can still go out, have fun in the car. It does have a lot of get up and go. My favorite feature with this, and I think Honda has the best blind spot monitoring system with their camera. Basically, they have a camera on the right mirror that when you turn your turn signal on, it shows about 20 feet on the side of you and behind you. So you don't have to turn your head and you know exactly what's coming up so you don't hear anyone or
this
clip
is the
anything.
lane departure warning system, right?
Yes.
Now, I want to jump back to something you said earlier. You don't consider this necessarily to be a sports car, a performance car, but people need to understand that you also have a Corvette.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, I can see where people like the tuner and love this, and it's a sports car, and it is a sporty car. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's fun. It does accelerate really fast, but I'm not the norm. I've driven, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, so I know what a true performance car is. But for me, it's a great daily performance car. And I love the coupe, and there's still plenty of room in the back with this car. I give it a 9 out of 10.
I would also mention a couple of other things about this car, which is that Civics, I think, are underrated a lot of the times because they were the number one subcompact car in the United States. People tended to shy away from them because everybody was buying them. So I don't think it's a lot of people don't consider them as exciting as I think as they thought they were originally. But when you get in the cars, you can see why this definitely is a huge seller in the United States.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, I would totally go out and buy it as my daily driver.
You're listening to Test Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Coming up, we're going to talk about some of the best cars of the year, and we're going to name our car and truck of the year. I'm Nick Miles. Welcome back to Test Miles. Are you looking for some family automotive entertainment? Tickets for the 2015 Portland International Auto Show are on sale. Just go to portlandautoshow.com to get yours. It happens February 5th through the 8th, and you'll get a better price on tickets now than you will at the door for the show. Here is a fun fact you can impress your friends with. New York City Police Department used bicycles to pursue speeding motorists in 1898. And Brad was probably the guy cycling after the motorists at that time. All right, so what was the best new car and truck of the year? We're going to announce the TestMiles car and truck of the year on today's show. But before we do, we asked two Portland automotive experts to join us and to talk about the best cars and trucks that they had to drive this year. John Vincent, who contributes to the Portland Tribune and their sister newspapers, along with Jeff Zerschmied, who writes for the Oregonian. Gentlemen, presumably you test drive similar amounts of cars as we do every year, somewhere between 50 and 100, depending on how good the year is. John, your cars, the best cars that you've driven, and what you think should be the car of the year.
Well, it's been a great year for cars, and there's a lot to choose from. You have the Dodge Hellcats, which are fantastic. The new Lexus RCF, which is just a great little rocket ship. But my choice is going to be the Mazda 3. Very approachable, very well equipped, and like every other Mazda, fantastic performance for the segment.
Now, this car is clearly a market leader if you look at stats for it, but the sales haven't been that great of the Mazda 3.
Sales in the U.S. haven't been that great, but around the world, this car does incredibly.
And I think one of the things I'm most impressed about the car is they decided they wanted this particular red color in it, this red metallic color. They had to actually design a paint head to do it because the metallic flecks were so big, and they wanted them all to lie the same direction as they use electricity for. I was absolutely impressed with that more than anything else of the car. I think it's just because when a company decides they want something, it's a little bit like Ford and Lincoln did with the MKC and the tailgate. They wanted it to open a certain way. They'd redesign the whole factory to make it happen. All right, so Jeff, you've driven a lot of cars this year. What impressed you, and what would you choose as your car of the year?
You know, my favorite was the Dodge Charger because it's a really usable four-door family car, and you can get it in such a range of performance levels and price points. The car starts at about $27,000 with a very healthy 300 horsepower V6 engine and goes all the way up to 707 horsepower, the fastest production sedan ever made.
Right, and it doesn't suck. Every level of that car doesn't suck.
They're lovely. Yeah.
I've always said that the Hellcat is clearly something that I couldn't drive on a daily basis because I didn't want to be dead or in jail, and specifically drove the 392 recently in San Diego and was just like, this is exactly what I need. I mean, it has all the horsepower. And I love to do this with the car, is to set it in a parking lot somewhere like Imperial Beach, go and eat in a restaurant where you can see the car, and every so often just double tap the key and start it and hear that roar, and everybody walks past it goes, whoa, and then turn it off and wait for the next crowd to show up.
You know, my favorite of the line is actually the 5.7 liter RT version because it costs $32,000. So just a real small step up from the V6, but you get this great V8 power and torque. Plenty of power underfoot.
Now let's talk about the vehicles which were nominated for North American Car of the Year this year. There was the Golf, there was the Genesis, and there was the Mustang. Do you think that those were good choices?
Absolutely, yeah.
They were all great choices. I the Mustang had a lot of hype, a lot of people behind it. I haven't had a chance to drive it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it.
And the VW, they've been building strength on strength, and with the e-Golf and everything else, they've got a strong case.
The interesting thing about that car is both of those cars, the Mustang and the Golf, have been in the United States over 40 years. The Golf's been here for 40 years, and the Mustang's been here for 50 years. And so it's interesting that those cars are still relevant and still up for awards. Let's turn to trucks. You guys obviously have driven a number of trucks this year. John, tell me about the trucks that impressed you and what you would choose as your truck of the year.
There's again a lot of great trucks in the market, and but one rises to the top. It's the Ram 1500 Eco Diesel, 28 miles per gallon from a truck. You can't beat that, and that's an achievable mileage. Unlike some of the other powertrains out there that rely on hybrids or turbos, the 28 mpg is very achievable in the Ram.
And Jeff, what were you looking at for yours?
I like the Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyon. They're the first new mid-size trucks on the market in 8 to 10 years, and they've been completely redesigned, and they're very useful and fun-sized.
The other thing interesting about that platform is they call it a mid-size, but it's bigger than the full-size trucks of 10 years ago.
Excellent. How would we have time?
I didn't even start it. Sorry.
Oh, so let me look here. Hang on a second. Oh, yeah, we're good. We're good. All right, so coming this next year, there's going to be a lot of new cars and new trucks. Already January is filling up for vehicles to be introduced. There's going to be a lot more nominations. What are you guys looking forward to driving in the next 12 months that you already know about?
Jeep Renegade, the first subcompact Jeep. It looks like it's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, and we've seen it. I think New York last year was the first time that it was shown in the United States. We've seen it a bunch of times. We've sat in it, and it's probably one of the most anticipated vehicles to drive. Do you think it would be a contender for the truck? I guess it would fall in the truck of the year category.
It would fall in the truck of the year category barely. It and its sister, the Fiat 500X, it's going to be tough to categorize those vehicles.
Yeah, I think they're going to be good contenders, Jeff.
I'm looking forward to the Mustang Shelby GT350.
Will we ever get to drive it?
If we ever get to drive it. But, that's going to be a completely normally aspirated, all-motor sports car, and I think it's going to be a refreshing change from all the turbos.
And all the superchargers, and looking to some of those amazingly powerful cars that we're expecting to come. January will be the first drives of the new Z06, and the fact is that the engineering is there now to have a convertible version of those cars too. 5 years ago, they couldn't find the steel strength to cut the tops off of those cars, and now they can. So although you may just think it's a lot of horsepower and a lot of power, there's a lot of technology that's coming around in these cars, especially with high strength and steel. And a lot of times we sit through these presentations from car companies, and they show us different colors of where the high strength steel is in these vehicles and super high strength steel. And people kind of go, yeah, we're not that interested. But a lot of time, I don't know if many people understand the fact is that that's making a huge difference to how cars are designed. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being here. We'll, in the next break, when we come back, we're actually going to announce the TestMiles Car and Truck of the Year. And hopefully we'll be able to get somebody on the phone from one of the winners to accept the award. We haven't actually come up with a physical award this year, so we have to decide what that'll be. I think Sean has an old set of tires in his garage we could spray paint and send off to somebody as their Car or Truck of the Year award. So we have to come up with what we're actually going to give them since this is our first award. You're listening to Test Miles on FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles. It's Sunday morning. This is Test Miles, Portland's automotive radio show at testmiles.com, and try following us on Facebook. Here's a fun fact you can impress your friends with. The Lamborghini Veneno. I'm Jeff. It's much better than pronouncing Italian than I. It's Italian for venom. Has 740 horsepower. It is the most expensive production car ever. Top speed of 220 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds, and a cool $4.5 million. And even there is a German dealer who's asking $7.5 million for his version. That's about a week's wages at the Oregonian, right, Jeff?
No.
A simple one-word answer. Just no. Jeff Zerschmied and John Vincent here. We're talking about Car and Truck of the Year this year. And we have heard from them. They have talked about what they chose as their Car and Truck of the Year. And we're going to announce what we have chosen for our Car and Truck of the Year. It is the best Hyundai that I believe Hyundai have ever made. And they've made some really good cars. And that is the Genesis. And we have chosen that as our Car of the Year. Have both you gentlemen had the opportunity to drive it?
Yes, I have.
And tell me what you thought about the vehicle.
It's available with 2 engines, and the small engine is by far the better engine to buy in this vehicle.
I would actually agree with you.
I think we all agree on that one because it's just, I haven't even been in the V8 yet, but I think the V6 has so much power to it, and it rides so nice.
It does, and we've both driven this over a week, had the vehicle. Sean was saying that he prefers the heads-up display option. Let's talk about heads-up display. Do you find it distracting, helpful, useful in vehicles? Is it something we have to have in vehicles of the future?
I love it, and I do think it's going to become more common in the future, and that it's very useful. It allows you to see what's going on without taking your eyes off the road.
And John, do you use cars with heads-up displays too?
Absolutely. Corvettes had them for years, and they're getting better and more customizable all the time. And once you can choose the information you want, have it in color, it's great.
And I think we also have talked about in the past on this show, and it's something that's coming up, is that Land Rover have been developing technology and Jaguar have been developing technology where your whole windshield suddenly becomes a heads-up display, and you will see multiple pieces of information in your car, which will be fun days.
I think that they're going to end up integrating the GPS navigation so that as you look through the windshield, you're going to see labels on the streets and points of interest.
Well, the one with the Jaguar that we saw is like, and our intern's not here to vouch for it, but the cool thing about it is it's like Forza, where if you're on a track, it actually will show you your brake points and your accelerations and actually what kind of lines to take.
And clearly, for someone like you, Sean, that's absolutely necessary when you're just driving a car on regular streets, right?
Oh, I like to go fast. What can I say?
Yes, but will it show us all the bicycles before we hit them?
So the Genesis is our car of the year. Hyundai have done really well, haven't they? We've looked at their progression over 20 years in the United States. My first car in America that I bought in America was a Hyundai. It was horrible. The thing was absolutely, I can't even remember the name of it now. That's how much I've had to drown it out of my memory. But they've come a long way in 20 years.
They have, and remember that they started here in Portland out at Ron Tonkin on 122nd and Burnside, the first Hyundai dealership in the United States.
And they were originally shipped in here as well. I think their first Hyundais came through the port here, didn't they?
Yep, those first Excels.
And they were just interesting vehicles, I can tell you. Pinstripes on the I think the only option you could get was the pinstripe on the fender and stuff too. All right, so that was our car of the year, and now it's time to introduce the TestMiles truck of the year. Now, we have test driven a lot of trucks this year, and there have been a lot of new vehicles, but this vehicle we have decided to name as our truck of the year is the most outstanding. And it happens to be what John Vincent from the Portland Tribune chose as his truck of the year as well. It is the Ram 1500 Eco Diesel. And joining us on the phone from Ram is Nick Kappa. Nick, congratulations on winning the TestMiles Truck of the Year.
This is fantastic, Nick. 5 years ago when we put the plan together to put a small diesel engine into the truck, along with the air suspension, the aero benefits, and the 8-speed transmission, grabbing fuel economy was top of mind. People who buy half-ton trucks really are looking for fuel economy, and at 28 miles per gallon, the Eco Diesel absolutely delivers. And we're really happy to hear that you guys voted a Truck of the Year.
Now, and it's simply made Truck of the Year not because of anything that was outstanding, because it's all outstanding. The truck just does a really good job of hitting every single mark. Then you add in the fact that you can get 28 miles a gallon. It makes it somewhat of a home run for you guys. We've heard a lot about other people doing diesel, but you still maintained as the guys who do the only diesel vehicle in its size for now.
Yeah, and when we first launched it, we figured, it's going to be probably a 10% take rate, and we can protect for maybe 12 to 15%. And media like yourself are always saying, well, what if it's more than that? And we're thinking, well, it could be, and we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. Now it's 20% of our build. 1 of every 5 trucks that comes off the plant line is a diesel 1500. And that's a giant chunk of volume if you consider how many Ram 1500s we put out there.
And Ram is the Ram 1500 itself in the gasoline version as for the last 3 years has basically been walking away with awards, hasn't it?
We've done extremely well. I mean, this is a bare knuckle battle though in the half-ton truck war. It is what it is. But it's been really well for us because some of the features that we've launched. There's been a couple things that have come together. One is people are finding that pickup trucks are addressing all the features and needs that they have. So we're seeing people sometimes move away from an SUV or a car into trucks because they're able to get the features, the comfort, and the fuel economy. So that's one piece of it. The other is that we put together 5 years ago a plan not only for half-ton trucks, but also for vans and heavy-duty trucks. And since then, in the last 5 years, we've doubled our market share, whereas our competitors have stayed relatively flat or even sometimes gone down.
Now, as far as some of the features that it has, you went to a rotary dial shifter purely to save space in this, but this is sort of things that we hadn't seen until then on vehicles. We'd seen them on things like Jaguars, but a lot of people now are starting to adopt that, and through the rest of the Fiat Chrysler family, you're starting to adopt that. That was a big move for you, but you also upped the interior, didn't you?
Yeah, so addressing both those things, the rotary shifter, the truck has an exclusive 8-speed transmission. In fact, we offer it with all 3 powertrains: the V6 gas, the V6 or V8 gas Hemi, and also our EcoDiesel motor, which is a 3-liter V6. And really, there's no need for a mechanical connection on this 8-speed transmission. It's extremely clever. You just need electrical link. So in trying to save real estate, which generally is that area where the shifter normally is, it's a very valuable real estate for any driver or operator. So we saved that for people who are able to use it. And it just really worked out well to be able to do that. We did some research to try to figure out which of those made the most sense, and the rotary shifter on the dash did for blind use. So you can use the shifter, and I know you've spent some time in the truck, and I'm willing to bet at this point in time you're able to go from park, drive to reverse and neutral without even looking at it anymore.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's something that you can get used to pretty quickly. And then the big thing is you put something that you normally see in much more of luxury cars. You have your Uconnect system in there, which is the full service infotainment system as well.
Right, and that was a big one too. The Ram 1500 was the first vehicle in the Chrysler Group product line to be able to launch that 8.4-inch screen. And we've done extremely well with Uconnect. People love how it's sometimes only 2 touches and your phone's connected and you're ready to go. And that's the big one. What's really interesting is how many different features it has versus how many people use. And I've asked that question, saying there's so much that the Uconnect system does, but what we found is people in general will find 5 or 6 features that they really like, and they'll use them all the time and may never even know some of the other things they do. Like, for instance, if you're listening to a baseball game and when you get a phone call, you can actually hit a button and it'll digitally record what's happening so you can pick up the game exactly where you left off. So those types of things, and even rewind to go hear about the play again. So those types of things really are neat features that the system has, and that's just technology going forward.
All right, Nick, congratulations on winning the TestMiles Truck of the Year. Well-deserved for the Ram 1500 EcoDiesel, and hopefully, again, you'll have something that's a contender for next year.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it.
All right, coming up next on TestMiles, we're going to take another look at the Portland Auto Show and find out some of the cool vehicles you can see there. This is TestMiles. I'm Nick Miles. Welcome back to TestMiles. We'd like to keep you informed all week long. Just follow us on Twitter, and we'd be happy to tweet you all of the latest information about the auto industry. Now, here's a fun fact you can impress your friends with. The first Portland Auto Show was actually 1909, and I'm sure Brad was actually there himself.
As a young teenager.
We are talking Portland Auto Show. The season is upon us. The Portland Auto Show is back in town, and welcoming into the studio two guys who are here on an annual basis to talk to us about what goes on in Portland. This year, the Portland Auto Show is February 5th through the 8th, and Jeff Fishback is here and Greg Remensberger. You guys, you are the backbone of the Portland Auto Show. Are we looking for a good year this year?
We're very excited about this year. I think most of you remember last year we had a little bit of a snowstorm, and thrilled to say we looked at the Farmer's Almanac earlier this month, and it looks like we're going to have clear sailing.
All right, so let's talk about the dates this year. Where are we with Super Bowl?
We're the week after Super Bowl.
Thank
so
God.
We'll start the Thursday after the Super Bowl is over.
Excellent. So everybody will be looking for some family and fun and entertainment. The doors open. Do they actually open on the 5th? That's a
Yes.
Thursday, right?
That's a Thursday, 10 o'clock until 10 o'clock at night on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then 10 to 7 on Sunday.
Yeah, well, someone's got to do the cleaning up, and after it all finishes on Sunday. Tell me some of the features, Greg, that we're looking at having, or Jeff, tell me some of the features we're looking at having at this year's show, because it's always quite a family spectacular.
You know, it is. It's hard to say the statement of there's something there for everyone, but there really is. It doesn't matter if you're 5, it doesn't matter if you're 65. We have something to entertain everyone.
Now, this year, as in years gone by, you're going to have your Clean Tech Center.
We are. Clean Tech Center actually will feature 14 electric vehicles this year.
And electricity, very big in Oregon. Do you find that people head to that first? Is it, I like to call them the hemp Birkenstock crowd. Is that who's buying them, or is everyone buying them?
You know what? Everybody's buying them, and actually everybody is curious. That's the big part for us. For the Clean Tech Center, is the education side of it's really big.
You know, the fully electric vehicles have been out for a number of years now, but they're evolving from concepts to daily drivers. If you look at some of the new technology and the range and the drivability and the fit and function, the new e-Golf is basically a Volkswagen Golf, but it's fully electric. It is a regular production car that happens to just run fully on electric
Do
power.
you have an e-Golf?
We do.
Yes.
Oh, well, because they're hardly available. I don't think they go on sale for another couple of months, do they yet?
Late April is what we hear now.
Late April, so you've got to wait 4 months into the year, but if you want to see it first, you can see it at the auto show. Other family events that you have going on, they're plentiful, but a lot of us go there to see the most fabulous cars available, and the Northwest is kind of a strange bastion of exotic cars, because we obviously have Ron Tonkin Gran Turismo. They just opened a new store here. They are the oldest Ferrari dealer in the United States. But on top of that, there seems to be a strange amount of people in this city that own amazing exotic cars, and they seem to be super popular. And you have a very big display of exotic cars, which really outdoes most other cities that are our size. You seem to have better cars than they do.
Well, yeah, because we're the Super Bowl. Well, you know, Nick, you're right. We're definitely blessed with having the opportunity to have exotics from a full range of manufacturers. You know, we even bring in Lamborghini, Rolls-Royce, and Bentley. But I have to say, in that exotic luxury category, it's hard to beat the new Jaguar F-Type.
And you're going to have an F-Type here?
We're going to have the F-Type convertible as well as the hardtop.
The new coupe, as they like to say in England, the coupe, and just in case anybody's got it wrong, it's Jaguar.
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 That's right. You know, speaking of the Ferrari Maserati facility that Tonkin's built down in Wilsonville, they are very excited about the Maserati product line for this year. And they're not only coming out with the high-end vehicles that they've always had, but they're gearing more towards the people that are buying Mercedes, BMW, and Audi and so forth, and are going to have a much more robust display at the show with a full line of products that cover a much broader spectrum of affordability.
Jeff, what are some of the must-sees at this year's shows, things that we're not really going to expect and we, you know, let's just say last year you had a Ford Mustang, you had an F-150, one of the first places on the West Coast to have those vehicles. This year, is it going to be as fabulous as that? You're going to have vehicles that we're not quite expecting to see?
We absolutely are. Greg had mentioned the e-Golf already. We also have a prototype that's coming from a Land Rover, the new Land Rover Discovery. Again, one of those vehicles that will not be available for about 4 months after the show. But we're going to have one of 4 cars in the country at this year's auto show.
Oh, wow. And that's the new, is that the new Discovery or the Discovery Sport?
It's the Discovery Sport, and actually MSRP is $37,000, and that vehicle's fully loaded.
So that's excellent. Again, how do people get tickets for the show?
Very, very easy. PortlandAutoShow.com.
All right, PortlandAutoShow.com. Thanks for listening to Test Miles this week. Please follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We will be back again next week with more information about the Portland Auto Show. And don't forget to buy your tickets now. And if you have any problems, just call Jeff at home. He'll help you out.